Welcome to the Sports Card Lessons Podcast. I'm your host, Big Ken. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on a streaming service, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified whenever I drop any new content. Welcome, and thanks for being here. As promised, another collaboration episode with sports card therapist Rob. How you doing tonight?
Ken, what is going on, my man? Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. Usually we record an episode and then I air it on my channel, you air it on yours. But for this entire month, I'm doing roundtable, so I couldn't air it on mine. I mean, I could, but I mean,
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
but
well,
yeah,
well.
so I'm really happy to be here.
This is a great segue right into let's talk about them. Those roundtables. Um, the last ones you did. What month was it? Was it the July or was it December?
No, so in July I did in July of 2022 for National, in honor of National, I did Collectors Month where I had three super collectors on a week and I cranked out three episodes a week. Boom, boom, boom for a month. And so I did super collectors then. And then on for the roundtables I did in December going into January, I believe, of like 22, 23.
Yeah, and you know what? They were great. Both months were great, but I've already start actually. I was on the first one, right? So they're unbelievable, if I have to say so myself. But we talk. I know the guests you're having on, and just mind blown of the people that are coming on and going to be on all month long. Um, Talk to me a little bit about just organizing it, because I think when I even talk to people and they're like, "Oh, the therapist is doing the roundtables." I don't know how he coordinates all those people. I can't even, coordinate dinner on Thursday night type of thing. So just talk to me a little bit about coordinating all these people.
Yeah, man, and thank you for that. That's like a job in itself. I'm not kidding. So when it comes down to recording, like each episode is typically, give or take about 60 minutes, about an hour long. But I can tell you that at least an hour of time and conversation in the DMs, because every roundtable I create a group chat for. And I'm like, hey guys, what's up? Here's the roundtable. Excited to have you guys. And then immediately I start like putting out polls. Like I'll create a poll. Like what works better for you? Weekdays, weeknights, weekends. Boom. Then I see what the majority picks. And then I'm like, okay, weeknights work better. So what works better? And I'll give them three different nights as options, with a couple different times, like in a poll. And then people will start selecting that, and I wasn't doing that for the first two batches. I wasn't doing that for like the super collector. Well, I guess the super collector was one-on-one DMs, but I wasn't doing that for the first roundtables that I did in season three. I would have probably saved me a lot of time just doing polls like that rather than like asking a million open-ended questions. It's like so. But yeah, it's a ton of time goes into the easy part is showing up and hitting record.
Yeah.
That's the easy part. That's the fun part. Um, so yeah, a lot goes into but it's fun. I mean, I signed up for it,
Yeah.
so it's not, I'm not complaining by any means. I
Yeah.
signed up for it and it's been incredible. I think my first round of roundtables in season three, I don't know if it was coincidence, if it was a little bit of both, or if it was strictly the roundtables that catapulted me. But I know right around the end of season three, going back about 5 months now, I was absolutely at my peak as far as streaming goes, as far as my downloads go per episode. Um, you know, right after the roundtables ended, PWCC reached out to me and we started talking. So it was like, it kind of in a way validated like, wow, okay, I am onto something. People are listening, people appreciate it. um, Companies are looking at it and respecting enough to put their dollars behind it. So it's a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of work, but a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
And it's a lot of big names in the hobby too. It's not just like, getting just a few people together. You're really getting, big names in the hobby, and you're bringing them together. And I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think some of these guys are kind of meeting for the first time, even though they know about each other and they know about each other's content or collections or whatever they do. But you bringing them together is almost bringing together people for the first time too. So it must be an interesting dynamic for you, because I know I've watched some of those and I've kind of seen you sit back a little bit and let the guests kind of go, because it's probably they're I'm not going to say they're a fan of the other person, but I'm sure they admire them just like they're being admired with their content and their collections.
And very good point, very well said. And I think that is safe to say. I think, to an extent, I think when it comes to like content creators and when it comes to collectors, if you follow them on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever the case, I think we all kind of become fans of each other. And it sounds funny to say as like a grown man, it's like we're grown men here and we're becoming like, and we're fans of each other. But I think it's definitely a respect thing. It's a respect thing. And I know that I consume a lot of content. I consume a lot of content each week. I probably listen to between 6 to 10 different shows faithfully. And even when it's a close friend like you, I'm a fan of yours, because i think about I think about how much time I have committed and spent listening to you, listening to your thoughts, listening to your opinions. Same thing with Jeremy Lee. Same thing with a lot of different guys, and just spent a lot of time with you guys. And I I understand what people say, like when they come up to me and they're like, "Rob, is it weird that I feel like I've known you my entire life and you don't even know my name?" And I'm like, I mean, you get used to like comments like that, but
Yeah,
I feel like that when I'm watching other collectors on Instagram because I've watched their journey. I know, like, part of me feels like I know what they want to collect and I know what they like just as well as they do,
yeah.
because you
Right.
can see the patterns, you can see the behaviors.
I know I've been there firsthand at these shows, where people walk up and are like, "Rob," and I know, and it's happened to me too, just they people think they just know you because they see you twice a week or three times a week, and they know everything about you. They know how, what you collect, how what thoughts are going into what you're collecting and how you're buying things and things like that, and you have zero information on them, right? Zero information. So they're coming in hot, and you're like, we've got a lot of ground to make up in a very short amount of time, right? It's but it's what we signed up for too, right? It's putting ourselves out there week after week.
Yeah, and we talked about it on my, because you were part of the first roundtable I did this week. So you were part of the second full batch of roundtables, and you were on episode one, and that was the content creator roundtable. And even though I am trying to switch it up and do different topics, have different people on with this second batch, but I did a content creator one on last season, and still it was like, no, man, I wanted to bring on again, for the second time, I wanted to bring on a different batch of content creators that I respect, that I work with to an extent, and that I just feel really good about, and people that, and on that panel, it was you, it was Jeremy Lee from Sports Cards Live, and it was Dustin, Sports Card Dad. And those are guys who absolutely I would vouch for any day of the week in this hobby, and I would be proud to stand next to. And if someone was asking me, if someone was new to the hobby, saying, "Do you have any suggestions for content?" You three, I would absolutely would be at the top of my list of people I would refer to.
And that's three completely different types of content too, which is really kind of cool, right? Because I know for myself, like I take a lot of I listen to a lot of content, but I really pick and choose like what I'm going to listen to. Everyone in the wolf pack, I listen to all their stuff, and it's interesting in that group too. there's really none of us that do the same thing, that do the same type of content, which is really cool because I think it would be hard to be going out and consuming content of the stuff you actually put out there, right? Like you could hear what other people are doing, but for myself, I would rather keep like my thoughts fresh, if that makes sense, like not to, you know, be hearing what other people are saying about kind of the lane I'm in, but I really enjoy listening to people that are just in a different lane and just in a different part of the hobby because the hobby is so expansive, right? There's so many different ins and outs of the hobby, and when you really go down the content, you're looking at the content, you could really pick and choose, what you want to listen to. But then you get to your roundtables, right? And now you're bringing it all together, like you're bringing like all these certain people that you know, it, like I'll put it out. I listen to you, I listen to Dustin, I listen to Jeremy Lee, and now I'm there. Now I'm there at the table with them, and then I hear their kind of their creative stories and what their thought is of when they're coming up with content, right? Which is really kind of cool. I mean that to me is the round table, the best part of the round table because you're bringing people together that do the same thing, but the thought pattern, the background, everything they do is different, and you kind of get three or four perspectives of everybody and what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, I think we just not even with content, I just in this hobby, I think we all kind of borrow from one another. I think, the old saying like we're the sum of every person we've ever met in our life, or we're the sum of all of our experiences. I feel like as collectors and just members of this hobby, I feel like we are the sum of all of the pages we follow. We're the
Mhm.
sum of all of the content that we consume. We're the sum of whoever it is who we hang out with, right? Like you are who you hang with kind of thing. And I tell you, listen, the Wolfpack thing has really, I think, hit close to home for a lot of people because people are constantly asking me about that. So I'm gonna on Friday of this week, my roundtable is gonna be with the sports cards nonsense guys. And the moment the Wolfpack came up on their episode, immediately they're like, whoa, 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 hold on. Tell me about this wolf pack. Who's in this wolf pack? What's the reason behind it? Like they were fascinated by it.
Mhm.
And I think it, just kind of makes sense. It's kind of like, you know, it's not about numbers. It's about, quality, not quantity of people you surround yourself with. So that's why I was so grateful to that you came into the hobby or came back into the hobby. And because you were someone that I had known, right? I had known you for a couple of years, and then it was kind of like, oh yeah, you buy cards, okay, I buy cards too, you know what? And I could remember probably like our third conversation regarding cards. I'm like, do you want to come to National with me? It was in Chicago, like a week out.
but it was the thought that counted, right? It was the imitation.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's great. So just to change lanes a little bit. So I know because we're so close that you are still just as active, in the hobby, even though you're not getting to as many shows as we once were, right? So just talk a little bit about, you know, where you're active, what you're doing, like, what you always have great things. You always have great things coming in and your PC has just blown up. Like you talked about the bottom row, right? You were in one of your episodes, you talked about the cards on your bottom row, the cards that you buy, they're your PC you don't sell. And now you have a case that's, really bottom heavy. That you've
Yeah.
got so many rows, you got more than one row down there of cards that aren't for sale.
You know what's great too is I literally have one card within arm's reach, and I just want to show it to you. I posted it on Instagram a couple nights ago. It's the 1970 Topps O.J. Simpson rookie on card in person auto. It says O.J. Simpson, the Juice, Hall of Fame '85. So The thing is, I see this card constantly popping up, but it is always the reprint version. It's always the reprint. I feel like I have never had the opportunity ever, or never has one come across my peripheral that was a 1970 tops. It was always the reprint card, and I'm assuming it's because OJ, probably, one of the few ways he makes money now is by signing. So I'm sure he just does a ton of signings, and he always has these reprint cards. He probably carries them himself, and then goes to shows and say, "Yeah, I'll come with my own card, and we could do this and blah blah blah." So the fact that I found an original 1970 tops and it's a auto grade 10, I mean, this thing is awesome. And this is just the one that was with arm's reach. So yeah, my PC is definitely building. And there's just a lot of stuff that I'm just not moving. However, at the same time, just today actually, I ended up moving one of the centerpieces of my collection after owning it for a little less than a year. That was the 51 Bowman Mickey Mantle, and I moved that because I'm going for a huge item on the PWCC Premier auction this month, and I mean, I don't even know if I got it. I think the play it safe me would have been like, you know what? Let me bid on it, see if I win it, then I'll start moving cards. But the thing is, in my mind, I'm like, well, what if I can't move my cards as soon as I want to?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to like go into default or have to like borrow from my personal money and not card money. So
Mhm.
I just preemptively was like, you know what? I'm gonna start making moves now because this is really gonna push me to go for this item.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think when it comes to staying active, I had my second child last June, and really, you and I were doing two shows a month for about a year and a half, right? Two shows a month constantly. So as soon as I had my second kid, I told you I need to cut down to one show a month. So the thing is, even though I might not be setting up at shows monthly now, if you think about it, the last 3 months we've done a show together.
Yeah.
Right, last weekend we went to Enfield, Connecticut together. The
Yeah.
month before that of April, you and I both set up together at Springfield, and then the month before that, you and I took a road trip down to Philly, and then
Yeah.
so on and so on.
Mhm.
So, we're still doing one show a month. I think it doesn't always look how it used to, with us sitting up, shoulder to shoulder. But don't worry, we'll save that for national though. We'll save that for national.
I just
Listen,
saw
you know what?
something.
I've had a couple people, more than a couple people actually, whether if it's on YouTube or in DMs, people hammer me about just calling it national instead of the national.
They got me too.
Did they?
They did. They got me too. They said, "Now, if I love the podcast, but now if I could just get you to say the national." So
Listen, it's not
I'm
even
really
calling it.
conscious of it now. Last year, I would say I was plural. I was nationals, right?
Oh
And
no, that's the
I got,
word.
I got zapped quick on that, and I
Yeah,
switched.
yeah.
I really trained myself to national, and now I'm at the national.
I know. Listen, it is what it is. So almost out of spite, I'm just continuing to call it national.
See,
So,
you see which kid we were in the classroom, right?
yep, yep,
Drawing outside the lines over there, Gerard.
yep. So yeah. So I think the ways that I stay active, you know, it, it- you know, I think that I don't hunt nearly as much anymore because I mean, daily people are DMing me cards, whether if it's cards they own that they think I would like, or if it's, people that are DMing me other people's story posts. Just
Mm.
today, I got DM'd a gorgeous, flawless, I believe, Eli Manning on card auto, like Super Bowl champions 2012, like version, gorgeous card. And I think the guy wanted a little bit too much for it, but I mean, beautiful. So it's almost like sometimes it's too easy. All I got to do is pay now. But I love the hunt though. That's the thing. So like
Yeah.
when we were in Enfield this past weekend, and we were just sitting there, I heard you talk about in your episode, just sitting there digging through dollar boxes. We were sitting there. I walked away with 500 of those $1 cards, 500 of them,
Oh my
and he gave
god,
it to
and,
me
we
for
talked all
free.
the way home, you never and I saw you get the box too, I saw them give you the two-row box. I
Yep.
had no idea it was 500
And I
cards.
said, I said to his wife, I said, "Listen, is there a discount if I buy more?" And she's like, she went and asked him, and she came back and she goes, "No." She goes, "These cards are too good."
Yeah.
And she was right. She was
Yeah.
right. You know, she was absolutely right. So, but I think I got roughly 500, and they gave it to me for 450. So I said, okay, that's cool. And
Wow.
then on my way out, I picked up a gorgeous LeBron card that I was very happy with.
Yeah.
Shout out to Menards Cards.
Yeah. That was that quick deal you did at the end. Right at the door on the way out. Yeah. Those are the
Y-
best deals though, aren't they? I
y-
mean, that's you're on your way out, you stop wait for somebody. You were waiting for me at the time. And then you look over and you make that deal. I talk about I, I was at the Shriners show, and Mike Tyson was still supposed to show up at 1 o'clock, and then he didn't end up showing till 4, and the show ended at 4. And I I went, I was there with Zips Cards, Jordan. I said, "Man, I'm sorry, I got to sit here till 4 o'clock." He's like, "No, no, 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 no problem. Go ahead, do it." So I went and I stood in line and did all this stuff, and it, I didn't get out of there till probably 4:30, 4:40, right? And then I came walking out and I'm saying, "Oh my God." I mean, I'm so appreciative that these guys waited because it was just such a special moment to me. And I find Jordan, he's sitting there and there's like 5 cards on the glass, but a pile of cash sitting there. And I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry." He goes, "Oh no, man. Uh, Now this was a dealer that stayed 40 minutes past closing time and ended up making a big deal with him, just because Mike Tyson showed up late, right? So it's always, it's just those little things, but that's a story, right? There's a story to be told about those cards. Yeah.
Yeah, and I tell you, sticking out like a sore thumb right over your shoulder is that Tyson PMG right behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. Staying right here. And it's not even going to the shows, not even traveling.
See,
Mike,
I would want to bring it to show, and
yeah.
people challenged me on that too. Just someone in my YouTube comments over the last week, and you know what's one thing I do? I rarely will ever read YouTube comments like in real time. So what I usually do is when I like usually like once a month or once every 2 months, I'll find myself like, oh, you know what? Let me go see if there's any interesting comments. And I'll go back like over the course of a month and read the comments. And one of them, the guy was like, I hate people like you that bring their cards to shows and don't have any intention on selling them. It's a waste of space. Why don't you stay home or something like that? And I said something like, if you are upset with people bringing their cards for show and not for sale, then don't go to National
Yeah.
because that's almost what half of National is.
Yeah.
You know,
And,
I've
and there's
heard
a
enough
price for everything. There's a
I've
price
heard
for
enough
everything.
yeah, I've heard enough content before National and after National. And I've heard people say like, listen, my collection is worth 10 million and I keep them in safety deposit boxes and I bring them out once a year and that's to go to National. I've had my table forever. I pay barely anything for my table. I just want to go there, show off my cards, not sell anything and just talk
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah.
I've heard so many old dealers say that.
Yeah.
I mean, that have like Ty Cobbs, Babe Ruths, all that, and even at the height of the market in 2021, never had any intention on selling. They're holding. Those are
Yeah.
their cards. They're not looking to cash in. So those are the guys that go to National, take up multiple tables, take up booths, and really don't have any intention on selling. But there's always crowds around them because they have beautiful
Yeah.
cards.
And how many people go to the National and pay the ticket to get in, right? So they can go see those cards,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you think about it, when you're going, if there's a card you want to see, the percentage are really, really high. Somebody in that room has got that card, even if it's a 1 of 1, right? Or number to 5 or something like that, where you can go to pretty much any show and you'd be lucky if you found any of those really high end cards. And you go online and nobody's ever really selling those high end cards. So people really like to see them. People will go and take pictures. I was there last year, I watching people go up and take pictures of all kinds of different cards and say, man, this is the first time I've ever seen this card, and I'll probably never see it again unless you bring it next year.
So that's like one thing, right? I think like when you're going to national, regardless, and here this is a little bit of a PSA, and I don't mean the grading company, public service announcement. If you are ever going to take pictures of someone's case or someone's cards, ask permission first. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a local show or even a big show like Springfield that has like 200 tables, where I've been at a show and some usual kid, it's usually, usually someone 25 and under. And I'm not knocking the youth by any means, love you guys. But they'll just come right up to the table, start snapping pictures of your cards, and then walk away without even making eye contact with you. Like, what is that about? I don't
Well,
even know.
I think what happens, I know what happens with some of my cards is the kids come up and they see and they're like, "Oh," and they take a
Well,
picture
yeah,
and
all
whether it's
value
card
in.
ladder or all, and then it comes up, $6,000 or $4,000, and they're
No,
like, "Whoop,
the
on the move."
examples I'm giving, they come up and literally just snap multiple pictures. So
Yeah,
unless they're snapping pictures and then going to the corner of the room to upload each picture to alt to do it that way, I don't know.
it's possible. Yeah, and it's easy. Like I go to, when I'm at shows, I mean, I'm on the other side of I don't usually ask permission, but I'm usually talking. Like when I show up, I want to have conversation. So I'm usually talking to the dealer anyways, and they'll know what card I'm interested in because I'll ask them about the card. I'll ask them what their price is, and if they have a sticker on it, I'll look it up like that on the phone. I know some dealers find it disrespectful, if you just walk up and you take a picture and you start looking up comps, but I think it's the norm now. I mean, as a dealer, I mean, I just think it's normal. I don't get offended, when people come up and do that, even if they take a picture and walk away. I mean, when I was at the National last year, a lot of people came up, they took a picture, and then they took a picture of the booth number, and then they moved
That
on.
that makes sense. See,
Yeah.
stuff like that, that does make sense. Listen, before we pivot real quick, I know we were talking about like content and stuff before. I wanted to read you a message that I got today. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, right? But this person tags me in. So this person shares my post, right, on Instagram. So I posted a picture, new episode out, blah blah blah. He shares the post to his story and said, "I really wish this was more of a collector focused podcast. Used to be one of the better ones until the PWCC partnership and this kind of content." And it was because my podcast, the episode today was a roundtable about flippers. So I responded, actually, when I last did a roundtable series 5 months ago, before the PWCC partnership, I had a roundtable discussion about buying and selling high end cards. And I said, to quote Jay Z, "Do you fools even listen or do you just skim through it?" That's from a rap song, Renegade. So then he comes back, okay? And this is when he starts dropping names. He says, "You know what? I haven't really listened since earlier this year, but looking at your recent guest list, I see a lot of guys that are doubling as dealers. There's nothing wrong with that, but it seems a lot less collector focused. But maybe that's in comparison to stacking slabs in Wax Museum. I wish there were more collector interviews variety. I don't like the flipping content. I used to listen regularly, but Ken from Sports Card Lessons is a vendor. Then you have content creators. Where are you going with your podcast?" So, and he just kept going on and on. I thought it was actually going to get the quote about you sooner than that. So I'm sorry, but this guy reached out and I said, "Why don't you like my show?" And he specifically name dropped you. So listen, you got a hater. You made it.
Well, you know what they say, if
You
you don't
gotta
have
keep
any
them all
haters, you're
coming
not
from.
doing it right.
No,
Yeah.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
But for him to say, like, I'm like, I thought everyone loves Ken. Like, everyone loves Ken. And
Uh,
the first thing this guy does is name drop you.
I, you know, you hear it all the time. Flipper, dealer, collector. I mean, there's got to be another name. I mean, I'm going to coin something if it's not already out there, right? Because I mean, I'm a dealer. And I'm buying cards to sell cards. So you could put me in the flipper lane, but I'm a collector too, right? I'm in the hobby. I'm collecting. There are cards that I collect. I have a collection that never make it out to the show, and it helps me, and like so many other people out there, it helps
So what's
me.
the term you're gonna coin?
I don't know. I haven't thought of it yet, but Hey, when you come
It'll
back
be
in
there
2
on the
weeks,
tip of your tongue.
when you come back in 2 weeks, I'll have it.
You're like,
And maybe
stand by.
maybe somebody's gonna. It's already out there. I'm sure it's out there. Somebody's gonna throw it in the comments.
Listen, this is the way that I describe myself. I mean, I like to think I'm a collector first, right? But I think we all are. So I think that kind of takes it out of it a little bit. I think most of us are. But I'm going to give credit to my buddy Brian, Brian Dennison from Cajun Cardboard. He describes himself as a hybrid. He said, "No, I'm a hybrid. I'm a hybrid of, collector and dealer." And I'm like, "Oh, I love that. You could be a hybrid of, you could not set up at shows, but be a flipper online, right? Um, you could be a hybrid collector flipper. I think so. So nowadays, I think it's not the way it used to be. I think there's so many more options now. You know what I mean? Like the hobby is almost like kind of like dating. Like there's so many options, so many options. There's all these apps. There's this. There's that. And with back in the day, when I was younger and my dad would take me to the card stores and take me to card shows, I remember them vividly, by the way. Every time I mention it, I literally picture myself walking into what our local card shop was. And it was this dingy, dingy little thing. It was like the size of, those fishing houses that they have in Alaska that they put over the hole, they drill the hole.
Ice fishing hut.
It was literally like that, but maybe like double the size. You could probably fit two five upside down 5-gallon pails in there. It was just really small, and you felt like you could push it over, and the thing, it looked like a shack. But the guy had some really cool cards in there, and I just remember all the time going there. But it's not like it used to be. It's not. There are so many options now that you don't have to get up and go to card shows if you don't want to.
Oh,
And if you're good at making deals, if you're good at that kind of thing, and you and I were talking about this on the phone earlier this afternoon, it's some people are addicted to the flip, some people are addicted to transaction, some people are just in it for the money, but some people absolutely love cards and they have their own little PC on the side and they're just really good with rotating out inventory.
yeah.
I couldn't do that because I immediately want to put my money into a PC item and not so much inventory.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And really, the only thing I want to add to that is there's a need for all of us.
Hmm.
These card shows are booming right now. I mean, every show I go to has been really busy, right? To get tables at these shows is very hard. These higher end shows, right? So you've got the deal. Everyone needs a dealer, and what's the dealer doing? They're providing a service. They're selling cards, and we're buying cards, right? So somebody's showing up at the show and they say, "Hey, I've got these cards I want to sell. I want to cash out. I want to get out of these cards." We're there to do that. We're there to sell cards, or people are coming to look for cards, and I almost think the people who really get down on, because I had somebody comment on one of my things, say, now I remember, after this episode, now I remember why I hate dealers so much. I mean, that was the comment that I got on it, and I thought to myself, and I said, well, this may be somebody who doesn't get out to shows, because being out to shows, the people really are having a
Funny
good
comment.
time. Right? I mean, the people are really having a good time. I make a lot of friends out there, and on the other side of the table, I'm not talking about all of us on the dealer side of the table, but the people, the attendees that are coming. I mean, I make a lot of friends out there, and we have a lot of great conversation, and we share stories, and we may trade some cards or sell some cards. I may some buy some cards. It's a good time had by all. There's nothing negative. I don't feel or see anything negative at a card show. So when somebody starts getting down, like, oh, you're a dealer, or you're a flipper, or something like that, it's maybe somebody had a bad experience at a card show and said, I'm not doing it anymore. And I feel bad for that, because there's a lot of good experiences to have at card shows.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's, if you're a collector and you want to go to a card show, it's one thing you need. It's someone there to sell the cards.
Yeah,
You need a
absolutely.
dealer there.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Uh, well, we're almost at 40 minutes. I promised you, it was only going to be 30 minutes, but we're at 40.
yeah,
Anything else you want to drop on top before we part ways here?
No, man, I'm just I tell you, like I said, because of my roundtables, I really treat my podcast is almost like my diary. It's like I process my thoughts on there. I when a lot of times when I'm done recording a podcast, I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders maybe a little bit because by me talking out loud, I'm kind of hearing the problem almost secondhand now because it's being said out loud rather than staying in my head. So um, by talking about things that are happening in the hobby or with myself, um, it really feels like a weight is off my shoulders. But now that I'm doing these roundtables, I'm literally not going to have a solo episode for a month. So I'm not going to be able to process anything for a month. And in season three, what I started doing because I had so much to process, I wanted to talk about every single roundtable at length. Um, but I didn't want to bury the roundtable episode. So what I started doing was I started doing a solo episode, like a reflection episode. I dropped every Saturday. But for me, I feel like these roundtables are going to be so big this season that I don't even want to drop a reflection episode out of fear of like burying some really good episodes.
Yeah.
So I don't have anywhere to really process what's going on. So coming here and talking to you right now, even though it's only been a week since I dropped the solo, it's felt pretty good.
Huh? Well, you want to come next week? I'll save a spot for you every week this month if you want to
Listen,
come.
I would love to. I would imagine probably not. I told my wife like 2 weeks ago. I said, "Listen, I just want to give you a heads up now, so I don't want to hear it. I'm giving you a heads up. There are going to be a lot of episodes that are going to be recorded. There's going to be a lot of podcast episodes." She's rolled her eyes.
Yeah, she
So,
said we'll see
so
about that.
I have to keep the extras to a minimum. I actually had another one that was planned for tonight at 9:30, and it's I don't say yes to all podcasts, just I don't have enough time to do it, and I appreciate it and stuff. But this woman, I've been on her show before, and she's great in the hobby. It's Courtney from Reckless Cards.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so Courtney from Reckless Cards, I went on both of her shows before, like months back. So she also does a true crime with sports stories podcast. So, so when she told me about that a few months ago, I was like, "What? I love true crime podcasts. I love it. It's the only thing I really listen to outside of sports cards podcasts."
Yeah.
And we're supposed to record the Aaron Hernandez one tonight, but the thing is, she told me, she goes, I said, "Listen, just like I'm kind of in a time crunch here because I know I was recording with you and just I'm doing a lot of episodes." So I said, "Can we keep it to like 30 minutes?" And she goes, "Oh no, we'll reschedule then." I said, "Okay, fine. I could do an hour." She goes, "I actually probably need an hour and a half." And I said, I can't do that tonight. So I think we're rescheduling for something.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah. Let's
That's
plan
where
on
I
two
got
weeks.
that's where I got my start in listening to podcasts was all true crime. I mean, I was there before Serial, but Serial was really the big one. So before I got jumped back into cards, that's all I was listening to was true crime podcasts. Yeah.
Nice, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
the crime that got me into true crime podcast. I was so late to the show that you probably lapped me multiple times. Um, but the case that happened in Indiana, I think it with was it Indiana where the guy told the girls down the hill? What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. All you have to do is Google the three words down the hill and trust me, it'll come up. So the case finally broke, and they finally arrested someone after like 6 years of it being a cold case. So these like I wouldn't even think they were teenage girls. Were they teenagers? They might have been, yeah, two teenage girls, and finally there was an arrest made. So over the summer when I had my son and I took all this time off of work, I just jumped into true crime podcasts. I probably listened to I think I want to say about 150 episodes probably since like the end of the summer. I'm averaging probably like 3 to 4 a week.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I used to walk every night, listen, I drive in the car, and now I substituted all that, to the sports card stuff now, right? So that's what I do, and it's,
Yeah.
I used to listen to books on tape too, right? Or on in the car on
You are a nerd.
I
That's
am.
nerd
And you know
status.
what? You know what's funny? You wanna know what's funny? And I know we're way off topic, and but maybe not funny either. But I was severely dyslexic, right? So I could read, but I really couldn't
You're like,
comprehend.
funny story.
I couldn't comprehend things that I read, so I was never a reader. I never read books or anything. And once I started with books on tape, I started listening to books on tape. It was like a whole world opened up to me. I was probably listening to 3 or 4 books a week, just constantly with headphones on and anything I was doing. And then that ran over into the podcast stuff. And I don't, I don't want to say listening to podcasts makes you a better podcaster, right? But it definitely keeps your mind just going all the time, especially when you're listening to the true crime stuff, right? Because you think you've got it solved, and that was one of the things you're trying to always, even when you turn it off, you're always still trying to solve that crime. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So real quick before we wrapped up, I know you went, you brought the wife and you guys went and saw a show last night in Hartford. Who was it? Melissa Etheridge?
No, Alanis Morissette. We went to see Jagged Little Pill.
Okay.
And I love plays, I love musicals, and I just assumed I knew had no background of it, and I just assumed it was about Alanis Morissette. Usually these things are about their life, right? So I was sadly mistaken, and I showed up, and like the first 10 minutes they're in Connecticut, and I'm like, I didn't think Alanis Morissette was from Connecticut. And then the girl comes out, the daughter comes out. I'm like, her name's not even Alanis. I looked at my wife. I'm like, Jerry, what's going on? And she's like, I don't know.
So
And
what was it about?
you know what? It was great. It was really good. I don't want to really, try to talk about it because I could be here all night. But it was deep. It was heavy. It hit a lot of subjects that are in today's, current in today's
Wow.
society. And anybody go see it. It's really kind of an eye-opening performance, and if you have the opportunity to see it, yeah, definitely go see it. And this whole story is just go. It's like kind of like Mamma Mia, right? It's a story, but all the ABBA songs are around, the story, and that was the same here. So it really had nothing to do with Alanis Morissette, except for it was all her music wrapped around this story.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and the performance, the people in the performance were just unbelievable. It was really good, and it was just opening night last night. So I think if you want to need a Mother's Day present for the wife, you can get some tickets and take her to a show.
What are they, a sponsor of Sports Card Lessons now? Melissa Etheridge and Ken? Man. So you're setting up this weekend?
I'm setting up in Woburn,
Nice.
Massachusetts, at the best flippin' card show, and that's at the Crown Plaza in Woburn, Mass.
Are you gonna have the lifeguard chair?
Uh, no, I'm not going to bring it. I don't want to. I've been
Steer people
invited.
on?
Somebody has a full table, and they invited me to split the table with them. So I don't want to, show up with the lifeguard and the beach attire and the swimmies and I've
Sunscreen on the nose. They're like, who brought this guy?
yeah, yeah, and then and then the following week is the Fenway show.
Nice.
Um, that should be pretty good too.
Nice.
Um, yeah, I got some shows coming up,
Well,
but
it's like you
there's only one big one. There's
it's
only
like you
one Super Bowl
recently
show.
it's like you recently said, all roads lead to national, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
So, well, Rob, thanks for coming on, man. Tell people where they can find you and listen to those unbelievable roundtables.
yeah, check me out. Just anywhere you consume content, sports card lessons.
Yeah, sports card therapist, brother. uh, well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please like, definitely subscribe. And most importantly, tell a friend and spread the word. And until next time, take care of yourselves and everyone around you.